welcome to the Philosophy Web. My name is Taylor, and I'm here with Cole, eating chocolate candies.
This is raisin.
It is raisin. It is a wonderful fruit snack. We're here with Chris. We call him Perfect Chris because he is the perfect man. We are here with Eric. Hello, Eric.
Eric, whose last name will not be said.
No,
Thank you.
He has a wonderful last name, but we will not. Maybe later we'll tell you guys. And then this is Ayla. Yeah, that's it.
No middle or last, it doesn't.
It's Ayla. We are in a different setting, as you may have noticed. This is our friend Cole and Eric's apartment instead of mine. And we will be discussing a topic that Eric brought up.
The idea is that some people believe in a sense of the universe has a vision for how it wants the world to go, and I want to discuss, is there merit in that belief?
Is there merit in fate?
Can you have that view and still be knowledgeable and still have, is that a valid worldview to have?
Explain, like, the difference between fate, as you're explaining it, and fatalism, which is the opposite of free will.
What people generally consider fate, as in fatalism, what good old Taylor over here has mentioned, is that people view fate as whatever it is controlling the world, sitting at the chessboard of humanity, just making moves, and those moves happen. Whereas how I see it is whatever the object that is trying to bring the universe into whatever the image it has for the ideal society it wants is, it's more like an actual general leading people into actual battle. It has the orders, it has what it wants, but it cannot guarantee that they'll actually do them. It's ultimately up to the universe itself to make sure this vision happens.
I think one of the main issues with this idea of fate that is being brought up by you, Eric, is that, like, a lot of times fate in this sense is seen as, like, a very emotional idea, because you usually see it after, like, I don't know, some, like, great event happens, and let's say, like, a girlfriend gets back together with her ex, who she really loves, and her response is like, oh, it was fate. So, like, yeah, it seems to have, like, a lot of emotional merit, and yeah, I think the goal here, at least at first, at the beginning of the video, would be to explain fate in a way without the emotions in it, which you seem to be doing a pretty good good job so far at doing that. So yeah.
Like, the idea that, like, how I view it, I view fate as the idea that something somewhere, maybe it's God, maybe it's just physics pushing everything in some way, maybe it's just that we are all just some guy in a higher, more powerful world than ours that we can't even comprehend, like, we're just sitting in his petri dish being his science experiment. Like,
simulation.
Someone somewhere is trying to create the perfect world, and it's ultimately, or what they view as a perfect world, and it's ultimately up to us to make sure that it happens. Like, they're trying to push it towards that, but it's not going to be guaranteed because of the idea of free will, and that people are varied and do not necessarily have to go in that direction.
I mean, there's that, there's also, fatalism was mentioned, like, all actions being predetermined down to minute details, a God controlling everything, everything that's happening being a coincidence of particles set in motion at the Big Bang. This is just the only way things can move.
Okay. Those are a few different ways fatalism could exist.
Yeah, but if we're talking about, like, whether there's merit to believing something has a plan, I don't know if I believe that, because if I were to believe in a god or a higher power, or something that is necessarily benevolent running the universe, well, not running, but at least ordering.
Watching over.
Yeah. I feel as if I wouldn't be able to put blame on myself. Or I wouldn't be able to take responsibility for myself as a person.
Okay.
I think within believing that, it becomes harder to own up to who you are, to think about things as, like, a very objective. If I think about, like, whether or not it's good to be selfish. If there's something else, something necessarily more powerful or more benevolent than me, if I act by what will be right by me purely, that is then to do wrong by that. And when I take an action, I don't know, I'd feel as if it would be harder to take pride in that, harder to take accomplishment, because if you've done something well, if you've done something good, you've been obeying an order or a suggestion, you can't take credit for that.
Right. So just to try to get your views in order in relation to Eric's.
To expand on that, it works the same with blame. If I'm a shit person, I mean, I guess within that would be being a shit person because you're acting against whatever plan. Or whatever.
I wouldn't even say that the plan is inherently the best thing that happens. It's just the plan that whatever is acting on the universe wants.
Okay. I think if there's a force great enough to exert will on the universe itself, acting against it is inherently a bad thing. But, if I stab someone in the face and it turns out that was what God physics wanted, I can blame God physics for that.
So you're saying that you don't really see much of a difference between somebody controlling fate and fatalism in general, because either way you could just not take the blame for anything that happens. It's there's a difference, but for the purposes of morality, there is no difference. Is basically what you're saying.
I guess I was talking about the purposes of morality, but I'm talking from a standpoint of what people should be doing. Right. Whether there's a good or a bad, I think people should own up to their shit. I think that people should take responsibility for their own...
What you've been saying, the argument that you've been making, reminds me of, this one quote that I've read a little while ago. I might be mistaking it because I don't have it perfectly memorized and I cannot for the life of me remember who said it. But they essentially said that I choose, it's not about believing in a higher power. It's about being a good person. Because if a God exists and it's good, it will not care it will not care because you have lived a good life. And if a God exists and it's someone that would not care that you did not worship it or necessarily follow in it perfectly, but still lived what many would consider a good life, why is that something worth worshipping?
I don't even know within this argument, if I care if a God exists. I think that you should do what you do for you. I think that you should do what you do motivated by yourself. If there is a God who wants you to do right, they would want you to do right because you want to do right, not because you want the approval of that God. And without a God being there, you should not be an asshole.
Oh, of course.
So I don't think there's merit in trying to think about or believe in a higher power for that reason.
I'm definitely more on Cole's side here with everything. We should definitely take more responsibility for our stuff. We've all got plenty of faults. And, we could just, when we make a mistake, we can either just be oh yeah, that's my flaw that did that. Or we can be okay, I recognize that. I'm gonna change it. I'm not gonna be bound by, this thing that's holding me back.
I would like to bring up an argument in favor of Eric, hopefully. So his argument is that there is somebody that might be shifting a few things within your life. Now, that does not necessarily mean that they're shifting everything. Well, Eric's argument is that free will does exist. It's not necessary that you don't have to take merit for your actions because a lot of your actions would have been committed by you. But whatever higher power is just going to step in cases where he or she...
I try to get the point that you're getting there. Yeah. Everything that you do is ultimately your own decision. But there is some... I personally believe that what it is that's watching over the world is the Christian God. That could spawn multiple arguments on its own. It's ultimately your choice, but there's something watching over that's looking at the world and trying to push it in a direction that it wants. But it's ultimately humanity has to choose to follow this direction or not.
How would they know that the suggestion of the direction was given to them?
And that's just the thing. You wouldn't know. God, there is no guarantee that he's never just going to come down and say, "Hello world, I am God. You Christians were right. Thank you for believing in me. Everybody else can go suck a fat one." Like, that is not something God will do. It is something that, he has been around, and he is, they have collected, the story of this God. Now it's up to people to choose to believe this without having any concrete proof. And that is also how I feel like when the universe is trying to push something in its own direction, it's not going to be something we know is happening. It's just going to be happening at chance. This belief would want it to believe in it because it believes that would help people. It's something that when something is going to happen, it is something that would be beneficial to necessarily whoever it is deciding to help. It's just ultimately the decision of the person who is trying to be receiving the benefit to move towards it.
So Eric, so being open to receiving a higher power's plan would be the benefit of believing that there is a higher power with a plan.
Growing up, I went to several Bible schools and whatnot. I had my share of religion as growing up and whatnot. My parents were very, they're both religious in their ways. My grandparents are. And they never forced it upon me. Anything like that. So, I have a good understanding of religion. And I cannot believe in the idea that there is a higher power. I cannot believe in that idea. And mainly, it's not there's someone in the sky telling me what to do thing. It's through learning about a lot of the world in school and whatnot, I can say that, there being a higher power somehow only applies to humans. It's there's no higher power for animals. There's no one cares about what the higher power has in plan for animals on the planet. And if there is a higher power, it's, the higher power created the Earth. Well, if the higher power created the Earth, it created dinosaurs. What was its plan with dinosaurs? How did it alter these mindless beasts, they're living, and then just just shoot an asteroid at them and start something else? I can't see how a higher power would alter anything. I can understand it's not controlling every single little thing you do. It's not making me do that. It's not saying, oh yeah, move that plate. I get that, but I can understand, if there are major things happening, which I also don't understand how, there are huge events that happen all the time. Is it just, the huge events? 9/11, or the war in Syria right now, or the human trafficking across the planet. Are these all, if you're saying this higher power wants everyone to believe in it, those are just three things where it's how can I believe in something that allows that to happen?
People are assholes. I accept that. People are going to, saying, okay, if a god existed, why would it let a war happen? It's ultimately, the changes that this god can make, it's not going to be able to just snap its finger and change people's minds. People view God as something that can just snap its finger, and this happens just immediately. Because, as they said in the Bible, the story that was actually this one was completely fabricated, the story of the world being created in 7 days. We could just have a talk about, parts of the Bible that were just not valid and just there to grab people's attention and bring them to God. The idea that the world was created in 7 days, that is something that is completely untrue. Basically, it's the idea that everything that happened in order to create, the world, it was going to take billions and billions of years. Evolution, 100%, there is merit, or not necessarily merit, it is a thing that goes on. There have been countless examples of times that species have adapted. I am of the belief that if there was a higher power, it created everything so that other things could have been created from them. Like, I'm not sure if even this is right here. We are the ultimate, like, of creation. We are, like, there's of course going to be something better than us coming along later down the line. And the idea is there something that's trying to, like, is there merit in believing that something like that does exist, that is trying to, like, create something better than the world we're currently in?
So, if someone thinks there is a God, why should they care? Is that useful to you in your day to day? Not in like a spiritual sense, but from a practical sense. Is it like useful to think, yeah, God or predetermined or something?
Yeah, I mean, like, whether or not there is a god, or like however the universe is created, or which god or no god, like, each of our lives just kind of carries on forwards. Humanity keeps on carrying forwards, even though, like, there are so many spans of beliefs out there.
If it's a very real and tangible direction you're supposed to be being pushed by, say, a human power, should you care?
Somebody who would be able to receive those messages would definitely care about it, because they probably don't know as much about the world and how it's supposed to be moving as much as the higher power would. Although you also have to consider that the higher power may not necessarily be doing what's best for you, but what's best for his or her,
For its vision of the world.
Vision of the world, exactly.
And honestly, another point that you made that I disagreed with, Ayla, is that you said that, okay, why doesn't it care about the animals? I've got no idea what it cares about, because I'm not it. I'm not the guy up there making the decisions.
I didn't say it
And I
didn't
think
care
there's-
about the
oh, yeah.
animals. I said it didn't apply to animals.
Yeah,
Like, it's just
Like-
humans with the notion of... Humans created the notion of a higher power, and therefore we are under whatever rules we set upon making this idea of a higher power. It does not affect animals. It does not affect germs or bacteria.
And how do
or
we
anything,
know
or
that?
plants. Like, exactly. Those are the rules that we set.
And, like, what I'm saying is, how do you know that, like, nothing other than us has this idea? This is something that this is going to be a very unpolished idea. It's like, for example, a dog will look at the guy who's feeding it, the guy who's giving it a life. There's some people who are of the belief that the dog probably believes that thing to be a god. Like, we don't know if it's true, but, like, that's just the thing. How do we know that they don't have an idea like this? Like, saying that humanity is just this special creation, or, like, that something special, that, like, given that we have the ability to reason, has just completely fabricated something more powerful than us, that is, like, looking at the world. How do we know that we're the only people who have that vision?
Do you think that the animals would communicate with this higher being with a different sense or something?
That's that's an idea in Hinduism. I just want to bring up
Is it?
samsara. Yeah, where animals look at people like they're gods, and we would look at a god as if we were an animal. I totally don't actually know very much about it. Pretty sure it's the Wheel of Samsara, but
Okay. If anybody cares to let us know
in the
you can,
comments.
in the comments, we have a forum, philosophyweb.boards.com.
There's a forum.
Yes,
Oh,
there
okay.
is.
I'm impressed.
And then Twitter @philosophyweb1.